The galaxy is old, its empires are powerful, and its wars are endless. Humanity stands. These are the Empyrean Chronicles.
All Stars, the most cliché HFY story ever told. The chamber was silent, not peaceful, measured. The kind of heavy, self-important silence that only happens when every ancient, arrogant, multi-eyed species in the galaxy believes it has the universe completely figured out, and is about to be proven hilariously, catastrophically wrong in the most human way possible. Tier upon tier of alien representatives from the Grand Galactic Concordance stared at the slowly rotating blue planet suspended in the center of the massive holographic display. Designation: Sol 3. Classification: Deathworld. Dominant species: human. A ripple of low-frequency clicks and disapproving hums passed through the chamber like a collective galactic sneer. Primitive, hissed the tall, angular Zarketh Dominion representative, his crystalline carapace flickering with disdain. Inefficient, added the graceful Solari diplomat with too many fingers and not enough spine. Emotionally unstable, short-lived, disorganized, violent, another voice chimed in. And yet, a quieter, almost reluctant voice from the back said, "They persist." The words hung in the air like the faint smell of ozone and regret after a bad decision. The hologram shifted dramatically. 17 systems flickered into existence across the border sectors, then vanished. Clean. No dramatic explosion, no heroic last stand, no debris field for the historians to study. Just gone. Erased from reality like someone hit delete on the universe's keyboard. 47 fleet markers followed. Ancient, proud concordance armadas. Gone. Not destroyed in glorious battle. Not even given the dignity of a proper fight. Simply removed. No distress signals, no escape pods, no survivors screaming into the void, nothing. The chamber shifted uncomfortably. Even the silent obsidian choir stopped humming for a moment. "The silence has returned," announced the cold voice of the Vral Imperium representative, his tone as empty as the systems that had just disappeared. A simple vector appeared on the display, straight, direct, unmistakable, toward Earth. "Impossible," someone muttered. "Illogical. Unnecessary. Humans are not a strategic threat," the Zarketh continued, voice dripping with centuries of superiority. "They are disorganized Deathworld savages who still drink liquid caffeine for fun, paint aggressive slogans on their warships, and blast primitive music during combat. They colonize planets that would kill any civilized species in minutes and call it Tuesday. They fight each other as often as they breathe. They are emotionally unstable primitives who refuse to accept their place in the natural order." Another pause, longer this time. "Run the models again." "We already have, multiple times. Conclusion unchanged." "They are inconsistent." "And that makes them dangerous?" A very long pause this time. The kind of pause that precedes a bad idea. "That makes them unresolvable." The chamber fell quiet again, because even the most advanced, ancient, protocol-obsessed civilizations in the galaxy understood one universal truth deep in their collective cores. When something cannot be predicted, cannot be modeled, cannot be controlled, it cannot be safely ignored. And humanity? Humanity was the walking, talking, cigar-smoking, coffee-guzzling embodiment of glorious, stubborn inconsistency. Back on Earth, in the quiet heart of Terran Prime, the red phone rang. Mechanical, sharp, out of place in a world of seamless neural interfaces and holographic everything. It was a relic, a deliberate relic, the kind of phone you only used when the galaxy was about to end again. President Sarah Chen didn't turn at first. She simply stood at the massive window, watching her planet turn slowly beneath her. White clouds drifting lazily across blue oceans, cities glittering like jewels on a death world that refused to die. Life, stubborn as always, refusing to quit. The phone rang again. "Madam President, it's the red line." "How long has it been?" she asked quietly. "Years, ma'am." She crossed the room with measured steps and picked up the receiver. "This is Chen." Silence on the other end. Then cold, clinical data streamed through. 17 systems, 47 fleets, no survivors. The silence had changed course. Her expression didn't change, but something behind her eyes hardened like reinforced hull plating. "Understood." She set the receiver down gently, as if it might explode if handled too roughly. "Initiate All-Stars protocol." The aide standing nearby hesitated, eyes wide. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "All of them." Chen turned back to the window. Earth kept turning, oblivious, stubborn, beautiful. "Do it." A beat. "Get me Reynolds. Get me Morrison. Wait, Kane. Get all of them." She allowed herself the faintest smile. "We're out of time, but at least we have the right kind of crazy." Across the galaxy, the All-Stars were already doing what they did best: fighting, surviving, and generally making the universe regret its life choices. Captain John Reynolds stood on the bridge of a heavy cruiser that by all rights should have been floating scrap 10 minutes earlier. Alarms screamed. Bulkheads glowed cherry red from heat stress. 17 enemy contacts closed in like sharks smelling blood in the water. "Captain, we're losing shields. Multiple target locks. 17 contacts closing fast." Reynolds didn't raise his voice. He never did. That was part of the legend. "We're not here to win," he said calmly, eyes on the tactical display. "We're here to make it expensive." He paused just long enough for dramatic effect. "All batteries, fire." The ship didn't retreat. It accelerated, straight into the teeth of the enemy formation, because humans don't do half measures. The first volley lit up the void and erased 5 ships in brilliant explosions that painted the stars orange and blue. The rest actually hesitated, a rare sight in this cold galaxy. Reynolds allowed himself a small, satisfied nod. "Hold them there. Make them pay for every kilometer." Commander Jack Morrison, meanwhile, was having the time of his life in a debris field that would have been a death trap for any sane pilot. 47 hostiles swarmed around his fighter like angry hornets. His wingman's voice crackled over comms, panic clear. "You're boxed in, sir!" Morrison grinned like a man who had never heard the word impossible and liked it that way. "Only 47? That simplifies things." The ensign in the back seat was practically vibrating. "Sir, we're surrounded." "Good," Morrison laughed. "That means we can fight in any direction we want. Hold on tight." He cut thrust, spun the craft like it owed him money, and opened fire in every direction at once. Not precise, not elegant, just pure, glorious, human chaos. Debris and enemy ships exploded around him in a fireworks show that smelled, if you asked him later, distinctly like ozone and regret. "Beautiful," he muttered as he punched through the gap and left the survivors scrambling. Next problem. On a distant, contested planet, Lieutenant Elena Vasquez lay prone on a rocky ridgeline, breathing slow and steady. The world had narrowed down to a single point through her scope. Allied forces pinned down. Commanders screaming for a miracle over open comms. Vasquez didn't believe in miracles. She believed in preparation, skill, and one perfect shot. "I don't miss," she whispered. A beat. Distance confirmed, 1 shot. She fired. The enemy command node disappeared in a satisfying bloom of fire and debris. The battlefield shifted instantly. Pinned allies surged forward. Vasquez exhaled slowly. "You're clear." The recall order crackled in her ear almost immediately. Vasquez rolled her eyes and started packing up. Already? I was just getting started. Deep in a secure facility on a forgotten outpost, Sergeant Major Marcus Kane opened his eyes as the emergency stasis pod hissed open. Cold vapor rolled off his massive frame like morning fog over a Deathworld swamp. The AI voice was clinical, almost bored. 17 systems lost, 47 fleets destroyed. Kane blinked once, slowly, like a man waking up from a particularly good nap. So it's Tuesday. He sat up, cracking his neck with a sound like gunfire. Who do I kill? The AI didn't miss a beat. You are being recalled to Terran Prime immediately. Kane grinned, the kind of grin that made smarter species reconsider their life choices. Good. I was getting bored anyway. Admiral Lyra Carter watched her fleet execute a perfect strategic withdrawal across the star map. Her officers looked nervous. The enemy was advancing confidently. "We're losing ground, Admiral," one reported. Carter smiled the small, dangerous smile of someone who had already read the last page of the enemy's playbook. "No, we're repositioning." She waited until the enemy committed fully, overconfident and predictable as always. "They think we're retreating," she said softly. A beat. "Let them." Then, "Now!" Her fleet pivoted with lethal precision. The trap closed. The enemy formation disintegrated in a symphony of railgun fire and exploding hulls. Carter allowed herself one small nod of satisfaction. Finally. In a sterile research lab filled with more screens than oxygen, Dr. Emily Voss stared at cascading data streams like they had personally insulted her entire bloodline. "No, that's not possible. Run it again." She leaned closer, eyes narrowing behind her glasses. "It's not random." A longer beat. "It's choosing. They know exactly what they're doing." The recall order came through priority channel. Voss sighed, already gathering her notes. "Of course they do. When don't they?" They all converged on Terran Prime. No fanfare, no dramatic reunions with swelling music. These were the all-stars, the most overused, cliché-loaded, galaxy-saving badasses ever assembled in one HFY story. And they knew exactly who they were. President Sarah Chen waited in the secure briefing room. No one sat. They didn't need to. 17 systems lost, she began without preamble. 47 fleets destroyed, no survivors. The silence has altered course. It's coming for Earth. Morrison leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "That's impossible." Dr. Emily Voss didn't even look up from her tablet. "No, it's consistent, predictable in its unpredictability." The council feed played in the background, alien voices dripping with centuries of condescending superiority. "Humans are inefficient, primitive deathworld savages, emotion-driven, statistically unstable." Morrison laughed out loud. "I already don't like them." Kane cracked his knuckles, the sound echoing like distant railgun fire. "Say the word, Madam President." Lieutenant Elena Vasquez shrugged, checking her sidearm out of habit. "They're not entirely wrong. They're just incomplete." Dr. Voss spoke quietly but with steel. "The silence doesn't attack strength or weakness. It removes uncertainty, inconsistency, anything it can't model perfectly." Captain John Reynolds nodded once, calm as ever. "That's us." Admiral Lyra Carter crossed her arms. "Then we stop being predictable." Kane's grin widened. "I've never had that problem." Chen looked at each of them. The president, the admiral, the captain, the marine, the pilot, the scientist, the Deathworld survivor. The complete set of HFY greatest hits. You're going to System 17. Find out what happened there. Find out how the silence chooses its targets, and stop it before it reaches Earth." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "And if we don't?" Chen's voice was steady. "Then there won't be a next system or a next story." Kane stood up first, already heading for the door. "Good. Somebody must need some killing. Let's go make the galaxy regret waking us up." System 17 felt wrong the moment the All-Stars task force dropped out of faster-than-light transit. No comms chatter, no emergency beacons, no debris clouds, just hundreds of perfectly intact ships drifting silently in the void like toys left behind by a child who got bored and walked away. "Where is everyone?" Lieutenant Vasquez asked over the open channel, her voice tight. Sergeant Major Kane didn't hesitate. "Gone. Edited out, like they never existed." Then it happened. A Marine on the boarding team stepped forward into an empty corridor and simply vanished. No flash, no sound, no dramatic scream, just gone. Erased from reality as casually as deleting a line of bad code. Dr. Emily Voss's voice came through, calm but urgent. "They're not fighting us, they're editing us, removing the variables they can't solve." The fleet formed up in perfect textbook formation. Doctrine, precision, everything the manual said to do against an unknown threat. "Weapons free," Admiral Carter ordered. Everything fired at once. Railguns, missiles, energy lances, a beautiful, coordinated symphony of destruction. Nothing connected. Ships began to disappear instead. 1, 2, 5, 10, gone without a trace. Captain Reynolds watched the tactical display with quiet fury. "We did everything right." Dr. Voss replied softly, "That's exactly why it failed. You formed patterns. The silence thrives on patterns. It resolves them, deletes them." Silence fell across the fleet for a moment. Then Kane's voice cut through, laced with that dangerous amusement. "Now we're talking. Time to stop making sense." "Break formation," Admiral Carter ordered. The human ships scattered like startled birds, erratic vectors, random acceleration burns, unpredictable firing patterns. No rhythm, no shared timing, just pure, glorious, stubborn human chaos. It looked wrong. It felt worse. The distortions in space, the manifestations of the silence, slowed noticeably, hesitated. Voss monitored the readings. "It's slower. It can't resolve us when we refuse to be predictable." Morrison laughed over open comms, his fighter weaving through debris like a madman. "This is a beautiful mess," Kane replied from the flagship bridge, cigar smoke curling around his grin. "Yeah, beautiful mess. Keep it up. Make the bastard confused." The silence adapted. Faster now, smarter, desperate. A massive distortion began to form in the center of the system. Larger, clearer, something almost visible trying to manifest, trying to understand what these inconsistent primitives were doing. Vasquez's voice crackled. "It's trying to resolve us." Voss answered immediately. "Bad idea. Very bad idea." Kane stepped forward on the bridge like he owned the entire void. "Hold the line." A dramatic beat. "No. Break it. Break it all." Everything fractured at once. Total, beautiful chaos. Ships firing at random intervals. Pilots improvising maneuvers that would have gotten them court-martialed in any sane navy. Marines in exosuits dropping into the distortion zones with plasma claws lit and bad jokes on open channels. Scientists on the fly inventing ridiculous countermeasures that somehow worked because humans refused to accept impossible. The massive distortion stuttered, glitched, hesitated like a computer trying to divide by zero while someone yelled insults at it. Voss, "It can't resolve us." Reynolds, calm as ever. "Then we don't let it." The silence pulled back. Not defeated, not yet. but disrupted, confused. For the first time in its ancient methodical existence, something had refused to be neatly categorized, modeled, or erased. Space settled. Quiet returned to System 17, broken only by the sound of human laughter and the clink of coffee mugs. President Chen's voice came over the priority channel, steady but relieved. "Report." Reynolds answered. "We held." "Chen, will it come back?" Dr. Emily Voss didn't hesitate. "Yes." A long, dramatic beat. "But now, it has a problem." Captain John Reynolds looked out at the stars from his bridge, calm and utterly certain. It finally met something it can't predict. A perfect pause. Us. The All-Stars didn't cheer. They didn't need to. They simply went back to their ships, cracked open fresh rations that tasted like regret and cardboard, lit cigars, and waited for the next impossible threat the galaxy decided to throw at them. Because in every HFY story ever told, the humans always win in the end. And the galaxy? It was finally starting to learn exactly why. The chamber back at the Grand Galactic Concordance would never be the same. The aliens would whisper about the inconsistent Deathworld primitives who turned eradication into a Tuesday afternoon prac-app session. And somewhere, in the dark between the stars, the silence lingered. Confused, hesitant, waiting, because next time, it would have to try something new. And the humans? They'd be ready. They always were. They'd brought extra coffee and extra bad decisions. End of transmission.
If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of humanity rising among the stars, please like, comment, and subscribe. New stories are released regularly here on Empyrean Chronicles.